Hello and welcome to special series on technical communication. Today we are discussing short messages. Communication is essential for being able to act and make decisions in the business world. People must be able to share information. Although some communication can take place face to face, a great deal of communication is conducted through text messages, emails, memos and letters. Text messaging and email are the fastest and the most efficient means of written communication. A writer can compose a message, send it electronically around the world and receive an answer almost immediately. Unlike electronic correspondence, memos and letters take more time. Of the two, memos are more efficient than letters, primarily because memos have fewer formal parts and because they are usually directed to an audience in the same organization as the sender. Memos also invite a speedy response. In some situations, receivers write a response on the memo they have received and send it back to the writers. In contrast, letters may have many parts and may be sent by postal service or a commercial carrier to readers outside the organization. All brief correspondence seeks the goodwill of readers. Goodwill is the value of doing things that create mutual admiration and respect. It is the feeling of friendship. In addition, writers of brief correspondence practice the principle of effective communication. Now, goodwill is the act of making and keeping a friend. Goodwill is a feeling of good intentions. Effective business correspondence fosters goodwill through its word choice and message. You can create goodwill in writing the same way you create the bonds of a friendship. Goodwill, like friendship, is created by being honest and polite. It is fostered by doing what you say you will do when you say you will do it. Business friendship grow in an atmosphere of mutual respect and trust. You also foster goodwill by attending to correspondence as quickly as you can. In short, you generate goodwill by treating your reader the same way you would like to be treated. Now, let us talk about principles of effective communication. In addition to generating goodwill, brief correspondence should be helpful to readers. Following conventional format and using standard English help make a positive impression on your reader. To ensure that the information in your correspondence is well organized, complete and free of errors, reread the document before you send it. If you are unsure whether your message is clear and easy to understand, ask a colleague to read your correspondence and to provide feedback. Text messages, emails, memos and letters not only help get the job done, but also serve as a way to evaluate the writer's performance. Managers and administrators can tell from an employee's correspondence whether that employee is solving or creating problems, communicating with or confusing readers, building or ruining relationships, and getting the job done or making no progress. Now, let us talk about use of suitable tone and humor. Brief correspondence usually has a conversational, informal tone. In fact, in this type of correspondence, it is appropriate to use I, the first person pronoun, like you are busy, so I will be brief, is the opening sentence of an effective sales letter for a magazine. Note the focus on the reader, the use of first person and the casual tone. Readers are more likely to cooperate when the message sounds as if a person rather than a machine wrote it. This informal writing style is similar to a conversation you might have with a friend if that conversation were polished slightly. Use humor to create goodwill in difficult situations or with uncooperative audiences. For example, a club leader at school might use humor to convince students to volunteer to donate blood, even if they have not donated before or are afraid to do so. However, writers should be cautious about using humor. As useful as it can be, humor used carelessly may be harmful. Consider audience, situation, and character of the relationship before deciding whether to use humor. The readers of text messages, emails, memos, and letters have similar characteristics. All of them expect the communication to be brief, to target a specific reader or readers, to have a specific purpose, and to follow standard format. Some correspondence is sent to a multiple audience and some is written with a specific audience in mind. If the reader is only one person, meet the needs of that person. Use language and information that he or she will understand and answer questions that this reader would ask if he or she were present. If an audience is made up of a group of readers, consider the needs of all of them. If you know little about your audience, learn as much as you can. Ask others what they know about your audience or read correspondence your audience has written. If you cannot learn much about your audience, assume a serious or neutral tone. Keep your language moderately simple and natural. Work especially hard to build goodwill. Text messages are becoming more acceptable as a form of business communication, primarily because of the speed with which senders and receivers can deal with information. Because readers may be internal or external to the writer's organization, the writer may know a great deal, a little bit, or almost nothing about the reader. Therefore, senders must anticipate expectation of the audience, particularly the reader's expectations as to how formal the message should be. An employee may send a text message with incomplete sentences and extensive abbreviations. For example, B4 for before or NRN for no reply necessary to a supervisor. If that supervisor does not approve of such informality and does not understand the message, the communication is likely to be strained and create a poor impression. Even though text messages may be very brief and informal, they need to be clear and to provide the reader with the information he or she needs. Because text messages are gaining in popularity, they are becoming not only a personal communication tool, but also an important business avenue. For example, Barack Obama's presidential campaign successfully used text messaging to get out the vote and to mobilize volunteers. Some advertisers used text messages to send coupon codes and discount notices to consumers. Used carefully with perhaps 1 to 3 contacts per month rather than daily, this type of marketing campaign can be effective and inexpensive. Also remember that your audience may not be available when you send your text. Wait a reasonable time for a response before sending another message. In addition, keep messages brief. If you have a long complex message, send it as an attachment via email or through some other medium. Audience for emails. For personal as well as professional correspondence, email has become a common way to communicate. Readers may be inside or outside the writer's organization. Thus, writers know some readers well and others not at all. Because readers often receive a great deal of email in a day, they expect writers to focus on a point and to keep the message brief without omitting essential information. Readers expect messages to be relevant and clear. They will not waste their time with messages that are incomplete, confusing or unclear. Now, let us talk about audience for memos. Memos are used to correspond inside an organization. Therefore, the reader will be a receiver inside the writer's organization. An internal audience. In an organization, everyone is likely to receive and read memos. For example, an employee might receive a memo from a co-worker explaining a procedural change. A memo outlining the facts, implementation, time, date, action and checklist provides a written record so that the person receiving the notice does not become confused about the details of what is expected. Even though memos are addressed to people inside a company, the writer must consider his or her audience carefully. The audience may consist of people with a variety of outlooks, backgrounds, opinions, interests, role and levels in the organization. Sometimes the writer will know the readers and sometimes not. Remember that the internal audience of an international company may have members in Los Angeles and Moscow, for example. Once a writer identifies the audience, he or she must study the audience thoroughly to ensure that its needs are met. Memos are for readers inside an organization, that is internal communication. Letters are generally for readers outside an organization, that is external communication. Although you may know a great deal about members inside your organization, you may know very little about readers outside your company, called an external audience. A letter is an extension of your organization. The letter will be in the presence of your reader when you are not. If the letter is well written, you will make a good impression and inspire confidence in yourself and your organization. Effective text messages, emails, memos and letters depend on planning. After analyzing your audience, you need to make decisions based on what you have learned. Ask yourself these questions before you write. What do I want the receiver to do or think after he or she reads this correspondence? What do I want to accomplish with this message? What is the main point? Does my reader need background information? If so, how much? Do I need to make the message simpler for this audience? Is this reader familiar with the subject matter? Does the reader have previous experience with this idea? What questions should my correspondence answer? In addition to answering the questions above, you should take notes on the details you need for your correspondence. Gather the facts such as situation background, events that occurred, problems created, order, part numbers, accurate descriptions or questions to ask. Find out the name, title and correct spelling and address of the person to whom you are writing. Double check to make sure the information you have gathered is accurate and complete. Using the answers to these questions, put your ideas on paper. Some writers prefer a list, such as the kind a person makes for grocery shopping. Other writers like to use free writing. Remember that free writing is writing down everything that comes to mind. Because this is the creative part of writing, you should not be critical of your ideas. Get all of the ideas, brilliant or otherwise, on paper. Whichever technique you use will generate a collection of ideas you want to cover in the message or body. With all of the ideas before you, you can start to be critical. Cut the ones that are unnecessary and change those that do not communicate exactly what you want to say. Pre-writing also is the time to rank ideas. Consider your purpose and the organization that will best help you achieve it. Decide what you will place first, second, third and so on. Pre-writing for text messages and emails involve planning to communicate with readers who have diverse needs and expectations. First, remember that busy professionals may receive a great volume of correspondence. Thus, your subject line must be specific and descriptive. It should show readers how the topic relates to them. If your subject line is poorly written, chances are the receiver will delete your message without reading it. Second, consider the reader's expectations for formality and length. If you are sending a text message or an email to people in your company or organization, you are likely to know the formality they expect by referring to other emails. For instance, the corporate climate may be formal, in which case readers might expect complete sentences, correct punctuation and few or no abbreviations. Likewise, review other text messages and emails to determine the appropriate length of your messages. However, others with whom you communicate electronically may be more comfortable with informal messages, incomplete sentences, little punctuation and many abbreviations. Writers have developed to make online exchanges fast, such as BTW for by the way and HAND for have a nice day. In addition to level of formality, plan the length of your messages to meet readers' needs and expectations. When planning, keep that limitation in mind as well as the frustration your receiver would experience in trying to read a long message on a phone. Likewise, because people generally read email from a computer screen rather than printing hard copies, keep your messages as brief as possible so that people can read the text without scrolling through several pages. Short messages also allow for easier response. If you have a long involved message, send it as several different text messages or emails. Another option is to create a document with a word processor and send the document as an attachment. Third, plan for differences in emails software. Avoid complex formatting such as bulleted lists, tables, italics or underlining unless you know that the recipient software can read them. Fourth, clearly explain the context of your message so that all readers will understand. For example, when you respond to a question, make sure readers realize which question you are answering. Also consider privacy and security, especially when planning text messages and emails. Little electronic communication is truly private. Employees using company computers to send email should keep in mind that email belongs to and represents the company. Even people emailing from their homes may not have the privacy they expect because of hackers, worms and viruses. In addition, people who use forward, reply all and blind copy with email should be particularly sensitive to privacy of others with whom they correspond. In addition to generating goodwill, brief correspondence should be helpful to readers. Now we summarize what we have learned in the episode. Following conventional format and using standard English help make a positive impression on your reader. Text messages, emails, memos and letters not only help get the job done, but also serve as a way to evaluate the writer's performance. Memos are used to correspond inside an organization. Therefore, the reader will be a receiver inside the writer's organization, that is an internal audience. A memo outlining the facts, implementation time, date, action and checklist provides a written record so that the person receiving the notice does not become confused about the details of what is expected. Pre-writing for text messages and emails involves planning to communicate with readers who have diverse needs and expectations. Thank you so much for watching.